What's up, Yarning Box Crocheters? Today I have a super cute tutorial for you. It's Geoff and Mike the Ducks, the plush version. Don't forget to sign up for our email list where you'll get a free pattern every 2 weeks sent directly to your email. These are the skills required for this tutorial. It's not a beginner tutorial, it's an intermediate one, so if you have these basic crochet skills, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off by grabbing our brown yarn and making a magic ring. If you need a refresher on how to make a magic ring, I've got a video tutorial linked in the description below. It's the exact same with blanket yarn as it is with acrylic yarn. Just be sure to make your magic ring super loose here. We are going to be placing 12 single crochets into our magic ring. Remember to be crocheting over top both the tail and the magic ring. Remember, have very loose tension while you're making these initial single crochets, or else it's going to be really hard to close your ring later on. So just popping 12 single crochets in the ring. The hardest part about blanket yarn is getting your fingers positioned correctly and having to deal with the bulkiness, so just go slow and take your time. And now when we're closing the magic ring, it's really easy for our yarn to snap here, so tug on the tail very gently and make sure nothing is going to snap here. If your yarn is really sticky and it's not closing nicely, you can kind of scooch the stitches around with your fingers to allow for more space, just like this. But otherwise, just be really gentle and make sure your ring shuts all the way. And just remember, blanket yarn snaps easy, so try your best to avoid that. Now grab the stitch marker and mark the stitch. You can either mark the last stitch that you made or the first stitch that you're going to make. I like to do the last stitch that I made, but just make sure whichever way you pick, you stick through it your whole way through the project. Just a little side note, I'm going to show you what the stitches look like with blanket yarn. It's a lot harder to see where your stitches are with blanket yarn because the yarn is so thick, but you can kind of feel your way around the circle. Here I'm trying to show you what each one looks like. It's the exact same thing as acrylic yarn, but again, because it's so thick, it is harder to see, so I do find it easier to sometimes feel my way around the circle like this. And now we are going into the next stitch available. We are placing 1 single crochet in that one. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, and pull through. In the next stitch, we're making an increase. And again, you might want to feel it instead of look at it. So popping 2 single crochets in the exact same stitch. And now in the next stitch, we are making 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch, 2 single crochets or an increase. Again, single crochet and increase. Single crochet, increase. Single crochet, increase, and single crochet, and we are ending on an increase. You might want to remove your stitch marker before you do your increase if you marked the last stitch of your round. And then just go ahead and remember to pop in that stitch marker again. In this round, we're going to be doing single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase. And just repeat that all the way around the circle until you get back to the stitch marker. You'll know if you did this round correctly if you end on an increase. And we are going from 18 stitches to 24 stitches in this round. So just coming up on the last few stitches here. And I'm gonna pop out my stitch marker to make my increase. And that completes the round. So this next round is going to be our last round of increasing, and we are doing 3 single crochets and then an increase. So for this round, we are going from 24 stitches to 30 stitches. So pop in an increase after 3 single crochets, and then single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, increase. Single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, increase. Just keep repeating that around the circle. And coming up on the last stitch, your last stitch should be an increase. And we have 30 stitches now in our circle. So this is the base of the duck, and now we are going to be doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 3 rounds. So rounds 5, 6, and 7 are all just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch around the circle. Each row, you're going to have 30 stitches at the end of the row, so no more increasing here. Coming up on my last stitch. And don't forget to move your stitch marker at the end of the round. And now for the next 2 rows, rows 6 and 7, I'm just going to speed it up on camera, but I will meet you back once you've done 2 more rows of just plain single crochets all the way around the circle. Now we're coming up on the last few stitches. In the very last stitch of the round, do not complete a full single crochet because we're going to be changing the color to white. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, and then leave those 2 loops on your hook. And now we're going to grab the white yarn that's in your Yarny Box kit. And of course, if you're making the yellow duck, you don't have to worry about this, but you can also snip off the brown yarn. And now grab the white yarn, and we are going to pull the white yarn through the 2 brown loops that are on our hook, just like this. So super simple for a color change. And now pop in a single crochet in the next available stitch with the white. And then to secure the ends of the brown and the white, all you have to do is tie a double or triple knot. And remember, don't pull it too tight because blanket yarn has a tendency to snap. So now you can pop your hook in the white again and just do a single crochet in each stitch around the circle. And then after this row, we're going to be changing from white to green. So coming up on the last few stitches of round 8, in the very last stitch, again, only do a half single crochet and pause when you have 2 loops on your hook. And then you can snip the white yarn and grab the green yarn. Then just like before, you're just gonna pull the green yarn through the 2 white loops that are on your hook, just like that. And then place 1 single crochet of green in the white stitch, like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark this green stitch that I have. Actually, I'm gonna pop it in the white one because that's the last stitch of the round. And then you can tie off the white and green together, and that's gonna secure the ends. And then we've got a ton of ends here. I'm just gonna trim them so that it's easier to deal with all the ends. And now just 1 plain single crochet in each stitch around the circle. This is round 9. Okay, coming up on the end of round 9, rounds 10 and 11 are identical, so just a plain single crochet in each stitch around the circle. And for rounds 10 and 11, I'm going to speed it up again, and I will meet you once you've done 2 more rounds of green of 30 single crochets around. So coming up on the end of round 11, you should have 3 rows of green now. I'm just doing my very last stitch of round 11. And then we're gonna pause and put our little face on the duck. So we're gonna be popping in the safety eyes between rounds 9 and 10. So count up 9 rows from the bottom of the duck. And we're going to be placing our safety eyes on the opposite side of where our stitch marker is. Because blanket yarn leaves quite loose and big stitches, we want to make sure that our safety eyes are in between the actual stitch itself and not between each stitch. So poke your finger through the different holes. You'll see those big holes. That's what's in between each stitch. We are going directly inside the stitch. So you should see 2 loops that are kind of like a stacked V. Just poke your safety eye right through those 2 loops. So that's directly in the middle of the stitch. And then I like to place my safety eyes about 4 stitches apart, but that kind of depends on your tension and how you want your face to look. So just play around with how you want your eyes to look. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and place the washers on the backs. And now grab your yellow yarn and thread your yarn needle. We're going to be popping in our needle to make a little nose. So I like to just place my needle in between the eyes, going across about 3 stitches. And this is really easy. All we're doing is embroidering on a straight line for the beak. Just make sure the yarn doesn't tangle like that. So just kind of pull it apart and make sure it's nice and straight. And you can kind of play with the placement of the beak if you want it directly in between the eyes, just a little bit below. I like to do a little bit below the eyes like that. And then you're just gonna cut the yarn and tie everything double knotted in the back. And then also thread on the loose ends and poke them through. Then once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and double knot everything in the back. This step is optional, but if you want your duck to have a little bit of blush, you can go ahead and thread some pink yarn onto your needle. And just like the beak, we are doing 2 tiny little lines. You do them directly between you just pop each line directly under the eyes. So I like to do just across about 1 stitch here. And pop your needle through. Well, that went a little bit too far. So just be gentle here. And I like to just make 1 pass through like that, and then poke in your ends. And then once all the ends are on the other side of the duck, you can go ahead and double knot everything. And then whatever you do to one eye, you have to be very symmetrical with it on the other eye. So just make sure before you tie everything off that the blush looks the same on both sides of the eyes. So now that you're happy with everything and it's all nice and even, you can go ahead, double knot everything in the back, and then you can trim the ends if you'd like, if they're gonna kind of bother you while you're stuffing your duck, but that is optional. Alright, so now that everything is nice and secure, we can move on to round 12. Round 12 is going to be our first round of decreasing for the duck. So place 3 single crochets, and now we're going to do an invisible decrease. So you can see that's the back loop, this is the front loop. We're going in the front loop only of the next 2 stitches. So not that one, but this one. So pop your hook in the front loop of the next stitch. This can be a little bit tricky with blanket yarn, and then also directly in the next front loop of the next stitch. Just like this. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. So front loop only of the next stitch, and front loop only of the next stitch. Again, blanket yarn can be sticky and slippy sometimes at the same time somehow, so just be really gentle with it, be slow, and you'll get the hang of it once you do this a few times. So I like to remove my stitch marker to make my very last decrease, and we just went from 30 stitches to 24 stitches. So for round 13, it's going to be 2 single crochet decrease. If you want to pause here and start stuffing your duck, you can, but I do find it easier to stuff my duck after I've done 2 rounds of decreasing. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna do my 2 single crochet decrease round. Just keep repeating that pattern all the way until you get to the stitch marker. And again, popping out my stitch marker to make my last decrease. And then I'm going to grab some stuffing and start stuffing most of the duck. So make sure that when you grab your stuffing, you kind of pull it apart and fluff it up a little bit. It can get kind of squished in transit. And then make sure you really round out the bottom of your duck and really make it shaped. Your duck is only going to look as good as you stuff it, so just make sure that you stuff it well, shape it while you stuff, and stuff it firmly. So just make sure while you're doing your next round of decreasing that it's not too stuffed, or else it's going to be really hard to do your decreases. So go ahead and pop in your stitch marker, and then in this round we are doing 1 single crochet and decrease. We will be going from 18 stitches down to 12. So decrease, and then single crochet, decrease, single crochet, and so on until you get back to the stitch marker. This part of the duck is probably the trickiest just because it's really stuffed and it's kind of hard to get your hook around. But just go slow, and if you hold the duck closer to your body, it can be a little bit easier to finagle everything around. So I'm coming up on the last decrease here, so I'm going to pop out my stitch marker. And now for rounds 15, we are just doing a decrease in every single stitch around until we get back to the stitch marker. So we're going to be going from 12 single crochets down to 6. So just decrease in every one around. Now this is my last decrease. And then I like to place a slip stitch to finish it off. So in the next available stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on your hook just like that. And then we're going to cut the yarn, leave about a 10-inch tail for sewing, and pull it through. And now don't forget to stuff the rest of your duck's head, so you're gonna have to kind of poke your finger in the top and round out the top, but that's gonna make sure the duck has a nice round head. So now that you finished stuffing your duck, go ahead and grab your yarn needle and pop the green yarn on there. To close the hole, we're just going to be putting our hook in each of the front loops of each stitch around the circle. And then pull it very gently here because blanket yarn snaps easy, and pull it to close the hole shut. Now we're just going to weave in our end, so go back and forth through random stitches near the top of the head, and that's just going to weave in our end. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and trim it, and all we have left to do are the wings. So now we're going to be doing the wings. The wings you can either do in brown or green. It just depends if you want your wings a little bit higher, so they would be sewn near where the head is, or if you want them a little bit lower, you'd sew them under the white line. I'm going to be showing you green wings today, but brown ones look just as adorable. So take your green yarn and we're going to make a magic ring. We're going to be placing 6 single crochets in this magic ring. Just remember, blanket yarn is tough, so make your stitches very loose in the magic ring. So once you have your 6, you can pull it shut. Remember, be very, very, very gentle here. And once you have your 6 stitches, you can go ahead and mark the stitch. And then we're going to be placing 1 single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch, and then single crochet, increase, single crochet, and an increase in the very last stitch. And that's going to give us a total of 9 stitches. Flip your wing inside out, place your stitch marker in there, and for round 3 we are just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch around the circle for a total of 9 stitches. This is actually going to be the last round of stitches as well for the wings. And now we're going to end off by making a slip stitch again, just like this. And that's it for the wings. Super simple. I just trimmed my tail a little bit to make this next part easier, so tuck your tail inside the wing. And now we're going to be folding the wing in half, and we're going to be single crocheting across both sides to close the wing. So insert your hook in the first side, and then also in the second side, just like that. And then place a single crochet through both of the stitches. And do that across each stitch across the row. You should have a total of about 4 single crochets. And then you can cut the yarn, leave about 10 inches for sewing, and fasten off. And now you're just going to make a second one identical to that one. Once you have both your wings done, all you have to do is thread them onto your yarn needle, and you're going to be sewing them on either side of the duck. I like to sew them just past the outside of the eye. And depending on whether you made green or brown wings, you're going to sew them against either the green or the brown part of the head. So just sew it on just like you would any other piece. And that's it for the tutorial. Make sure the wings are symmetrical. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.